What in the world's happening with King County real estate? Well, check it out. All right. We got a lot to go through today because it's a really interesting time that we're living through. This is supply and demand. Okay. The green is the supply, houses that came to market in any given month. Blue is the demand, houses that went under contract any given month. Couple of interesting things right away. This is the last 2 years, right? Since 2020, you can see that June of this year was our peak. If you've been following my vlog, you've been following this, you know that June, July is usually the peak. And I said we were going to get back to normal seasonality, and we have in terms of supply. This is a normal kind of seasonality for supply. It's not pandemic level supplies, it's normal level supplies. What we see also is an abnormal level of demand. Demand usually goes down in the summer. You can see that's a normal sort of trend for people, but it rarely drops off the shelf like this. And it certainly doesn't remain at roughly half of what supply is. That's a big stinking deal. That's a big deal. Big market correction. And I say correction and not a crash, and here's why. Couple things. Let's go back in time. Get in the Wayback Machine. Okay. And we're going to go all the way back to 2007. Couple things about this graph. Okay, here's your 2007 graph. See that over here in 2008? That's a crash. This is a crash. See all this green space, all this extra inventory? That's a market tanking, okay? That's a bigger deal, okay? This is, look, since then, increase in demand, inventory goes up slightly slower. That would be the increase in prices that you've seen from 2012. Nice, solid gains, okay? Then, right before the pandemic, you had a whole 2018, 2019 where people decided to get on the selling bandwagon, drove inventory way up, okay, for at least the summer months, and demand sort of capped out, okay? So you had a little bit harder time selling in 2018, 2019, if you remember, and then pandemic, right? The craziness where interest rates, basically free money for people. All right. So that increased demand again, and people just were having a hard time moving during that. It created a spiral for people. People didn't want to move. Everyone wanted to move to the same places. So supply dried up. That created the last 2 years of wackiness in our market that we've all gotten used to when interest rates are 2.5%. Well, they're double that now. And that meant people just stopped buying over the summer. They were like, put the brakes on, see what happens. And you've seen a market correction. I think this is a market correction. I think of the market correcting like a rubber band. It went stretch out. Now it's going to come back in. It's probably going to overshoot a little bit. I don't think this is going to last. That kind of demand is going to last. I think the Northwest and the Seattle area has a positive outlook in terms of people moving here. There's water here. I don't think that's a little deal. You're looking at this in the West. Where are people going to move? They're going to move where there's water. I've sold 3 or 4 houses myself this year. No, more than that. This year from people moving from California because they wanted to get away from the droughts. So I don't think long-term you're going to see the demand dry up like this, like it did in 2008, which is really what it's going to take to have this be called a crash. This is a correction. That's what you're seeing here. So if you're selling now, you got to price competitively. You cannot price like you would last year. You really can't price the way you would last month, right? You really got to price it intelligently for the current set of circumstances. And if you're buying, I think this is probably as good as it's going to get this year. August, September, you're going to find whatever bargain you're going to find then, because what you're going to see predictably is something like this where supply is going to start to dry up. It's already getting smaller and you're going to go all the way down, except you're not going to have that kind of demand next to it. So you're going to see more and more, less and less houses come the fall. So if you're looking to buy, this is really your time. Let me know if I can help in any way. All right. That's what I'm here for. Questions, things like that. Let me know. Aaron Hendon with Christine and Company over at EXP. Make sure you share this and like it and comment on it and do all that good social media love. Let me know what I can do for you. I'll talk to you soon. What in the world is happening with Pirce County real estate? What? You got to check it out. It's pretty interesting. All right, what you're looking at here is supply and demand, my favorite kind of graph. All right, the green are the new listings, the supply that came on any given month, and the blue are the ones that went under contract, the demand on any given month, okay, over the last 2 years. Just gives you a little historical context for where we're at. And where we're at is, well, as we predicted, we meaning me, normal seasonality, up in inventory and then down in inventory. That's pretty normal. Up in inventory, down, even during the pandemic, up and then down. So that's, you've seen as many houses in it 1 month as you're going to see. Now, what is surprising is the level at which the buyers fell off the cliff. You don't usually see this few buyers. And even if you go back further, and we will in a minute, you don't see so few buyers. All right. So what you're seeing now is relative to the number of buyers, relative to the demand, you're seeing a glut of inventory, extra supply. Okay. Houses on the market longer. Prices can't go up as quickly. Some price drops, but the price drops are mostly because people were counting on what had become normal over the last 2 years. So they priced their homes like that, and you can't do that now. Okay, you can't. Here's why. Here's what it looks like. Oh, let's go back to custom. No, where were we? Yeah, let's go back to 2007. 2007, because people are like, oh, the market's crashing. No, this is not a market crash. You want a market crash? I'll show you a market crash. That's a market crash. See that? 2009? That's a market crash. There's a low, okay? And a massive glut of inventory, right? All those houses took 2 years, right? And then this massive impact on the economy. This was a huge, huge, huge deal. This is a crash. This is a correction. Why? Because look, as we went through the 2010s, inventory went up and demand went up. Okay. Demand leveled out in 2016, 17, 18. Inventory took a little while to catch up in terms of slowing down. But you can see how much less green there was in 2017, 18, 19 than, say, 10 years prior to that. All right. Then you get to the pandemic when no inventory happened and interest rates fell out, right? So you could buy a house for really, really cheap, and people did. Demand started to go up again. It was much more robust over that time. And now that brings us here to 2022. When inventory starts going up, it didn't get to pre-pandemic levels, right? It's not 2016, 17 levels, right? But it's beating 2016, okay? We got up pretty high. And what we weren't expecting, or we didn't know for sure how bad that was going to get, was the demand fell off, that people stopped buying this year, right? Interest rates have doubled, but even demand today is higher than it was. Last time interest rates were this high was 2009. You got double the demand that was then. If you think that people are going to stop moving to the Northwest, then maybe this turns into a crash. Then you can argue for that. But if people are going to continue to move, this demand is still higher than 2015, right? It's a sort of a correction. It's like, oh, we were going up and we had been elevated during the pandemic for the low interest rates. We're going to correct. That should be bouncing up next spring. I don't think you're going to see a lot more demand coming on for the rest of the year. I don't think you're going to beat the current level of demand. I don't know that for sure, but I don't know why you would. And let's just go back to 2 years again. Predictably, we will hang out at this level of demand. Maybe the glut of inventory creates a spike in demand, but over the rest of the year, you're going to see inventory continue to go down. So if you're a seller, you got to price your home intelligently. You cannot expect to get what the home would have gotten last year. You can't even expect to get for the home what it would have gotten last month. You got to price intelligently. And if you're buying, this is it. You've got the best possible shot at buying a house now than you've had in the last 5 years. And I don't think it gets better in the fall. I think what happens in the fall is that you see inventory go down. You'll have less to choose from. And typically, the falls are a little bit more competitive than late summer. So fall and winter is likely to be a little bit more competitive than right now. This is probably the best time to be a buyer you're going to get all year. August, September, that time frame, going to be really easy for you. All right, relatively easy for you. If you have questions about your circumstances, your situation, what you're dealing with, That's what I'm here for. All right. Happy to answer any questions you have and walk through your personal situation with you. Make sure you share this, like it, subscribe, do all that great social media stuff. Aaron Hendon with Christine and Company over EXP. Talk to you soon. What in the world is happening with Kitsap County real estate? Well, check it out. All right. This is really super interesting, a little bit unique compared to the other counties. You've got, first of all, this is not unique. First of all, this is supply and demand. Green is the supply, new listings that came to market. Blue is the demand, homes that went off the market for the last 2 years. What you're seeing is, okay, so pretty predictably, supply, the green, has peaked. Okay, that's a stat we have been saying, we meaning me, have been saying all along we were getting back to normal seasonality. That is normal seasonality, a peak in the summer and then to drop down. So seeing less inventory coming to market in July than you did in June. Chances are you'll see less in August than you did in July. Okay, that would be predictable. What you did see in June was a massive drop in buying demand and up a little bit in July relative to June. So a little bit of an uptick, right? That's, again, not all that unusual to have it bounce around, but at a lower level as the summer comes to an end. But that there was an increase is unique. Didn't happen in Pirce County, didn't happen in King County, that there's more buying demand in Kitsap County. So let's take a look at overall. By the way, this then does look like a market correction. You should watch the King County or Pirce County to get the difference between a correction and a crash. But let's just look here for a second. This is 5 years. You can see this looks remarkably like pre-pandemic stuff here. Right now, I mean, other than the steep decline in buyers in June, which you don't usually get, right? Pandemic, certainly inventory, green is pre-pandemic. And not surprisingly, with interest rates doubling in a very short period of time, you had a little bit of backlash and buyers pulled a brake cord. Not all that unusual. All right. So I don't think this is a crash. This looks very much like a correction. All right. So I'll tell you what it all means in a second. I want to take a quick look at Bainbridge as separate from Kitsap County as a whole. And in Bainbridge, you can see really demand really fell off overall, much more harshly than Kitsap as a whole. But you can see this is really straight up pre-pandemic level stuff. This is nothing crazy or unusual about the amount of inventory and even the demand. I mean, again, I think the demand is completely understandable given interest rates doubled in a 3-month, 4-month period. That's a crazy steep gradient that you'd be demanding buyers deal with. And they did deal with it by going away for a little bit. All right, so you can see this looks like Kitsap overall, actually. But there's a lot more inventory. It's a lot more inventory available than there has been for the last 2 years. So what all this winds up meaning is this. If you're selling, don't be an idiot. Okay, you cannot get what you got for it last year. You cannot get what you got for it last month. You got to price it really well. And if you're buying, this is it. This is your time to make a move. August, September are going to be the 2 best months for you this year. Hard to imagine that it's going to get better for you later. You have the most to choose from with the least competition relative to what there is to choose from that you've had all year. Whether you're on Bainbridge particularly or Kitsap in general, this is the best time to go get yourself a house. Let me know if you have any questions about your particular circumstances, your situation. That's what I'm here for. Let me know what I can do. Make sure you like this, share it, comment, all the good social media love you can give me. Aaron Hendon with Christine and Company over at eXp Realty. What in the world is happening with Vashon Real Estate? Check it out. This is really interesting. Well, it's interesting to me. I don't know. We'll find out. If you're watching it, hopefully it's interesting to you. Let's see. The green, this is supply and demand, my favorite. Green is the supply, the number of homes that came onto the market any given month over the last 2 years. And the blue is the demand, the homes that came off the market any given month for the last 2 years. All right. So pretty typical seasonally, right? You saw we are at the peak of inventory, June, July, same, right? So it's unlikely that you're going to see an increase, more homes come to market in August. Rarely happens. Very rarely, doesn't really. You can't count on that. And The demand fell off the cliff in July. Look at that. Look at that. Oh my gosh, that's craziness. Okay, we were going up, up, up. Now, honestly, normal seasonality would indicate that demand drops off in the summer. That's not atypical historically. The last 2 years here it is. I'll show you. Let's go out a little bit further and I'll show you historically what it looks like. So you can see, I mean, we're not at pre-pandemic levels of inventory, not even close. Okay, so that never happened. And if you look at King County, Pirce County, the surrounding counties, we really did get to very close to pre-pandemic levels of inventory. Did not happen on Vashon this year. There's just not that level. Now, and demand didn't drop off. I mean, demand dropped off in here, but it's not radically different than it was. So you're not talking about a radical difference in inventory. Again, you would want to watch the King County overall to get how different this is. But what this indicates really is that Vashon is still, compared to all the other counties surrounding it, much more competitive in terms of home sales. That homes still move really quickly on Vashon, and likely for multiple offers, some for over asking, not unusual. Although this is the easiest time all year. In fact, it's probably the easiest time in any of the last 2 years to buy a house. It's not as easy as it was pre-pandemic. You barely see signs of a correction on Vashon. So it's just easier seasonally to buy a house, which is not unusual. And it's easier than it was during the pandemic, mostly because interest rates have doubled. So there really aren't so many crazy offers on houses. So what does it mean for the future? It means if you're selling, you want to price intelligently. You don't want to count on there being 10, 12 offers for a house. It's unlikely. But you should count on your home moving fairly quickly if it's priced well. And if you're buying, this is it. It doesn't get easier. You're not going to find an easier time to buy a house the rest of 2022, predictably. It's just not. You're going to see less inventory come to market in August than you did in July. And you're going to see buyers, should, seasonally adjust for that. But it's still going to be, this is as least competitive as you're going to get, okay, on Vashon this year. After this month, inventory goes down, buyers go down with it. You're going to have less to choose from, but there'll be the same number of buyers, okay? So, or a proportional number of buyers. So it's not going to get easier for you. That's the point. All right, now, if you want to buy on Vashon or you want to sell on Vashon or you have questions about Vashon real estate, that's what I'm here for. Happy to help you with that. Aaron Hendon over at eXp Realty with Christine and Company. Like this, share it, comment, let me know what you think. Talk to you soon. Bye. What in the world is happening with East Side real estate? All right, here we go. This is Bellevue, Redmond, Issaquah, that whole area. You're looking at the last 2 years of supply and demand. The green is the supply, the number of houses that came to market any given month, and the blue is the demand. Look at that. If you've been watching any of these other videos, the King County one in particular would be relevant here. If you just break out the East Side, you can see massive increase in demand compared to the last 2 years. Supply, massive increase in supply. That is a huge, huge difference. The amount of green right there, I'll show you what it looks like in a longer term graph in a minute. It's more dramatic, but that's a lot of excess inventory, a lot of inventory relative to the demand. And the demand, like everywhere else, dropped off in July and it came back a little bit in August, but this is pretty seasonally traditional. What you're seeing here, it's just relative to pre-pandemic or the pandemic. It's radically different. You have a way easier time to buy and a way more difficult time in selling than you have had in the last 3 years. If we go back, let's just go back 5 years and look at this. You can see, you're not quite at the peak of amount of inventory, but the depth of it, the number of months where it was high is much larger. And you can see pandemic, almost no excess inventory of the first 2 years of the pandemic, much more in pre-pandemic and way more this year than pre-pandemic. This is the easiest time has been to buy on the East Side in the last 5 years, probably further if we went back further, and the trickiest time to sell. So if you're selling on the East Side, you got to be careful. You got to price it right. You got to make sure that you're not expecting what you got for it last year. You can't even really expect what you got for it last month. Okay. It's really important that you deal with, there's a lot of choices that buyers have that they didn't have over the last 2 years. Okay. And if you're buying, this is it. I don't think it gets easier for you. I don't think in the fall it's all of a sudden there's going to be more houses to choose from. Nope, there's not. It doesn't go that way. And are there going to be less buyers? Yeah, but it'll be proportional to the fewer houses. So you have a recent history that this is very, very, very good for you in terms of being able to buy. Okay, there's the most available inventory with the least competition. Go for it. All right. If you have questions about your circumstances, your particular, what you're looking for, let me know, because this is different. This spotlight on the east side is different than the King County macro. Your circumstances is even more, and it's likely to change as well. Let me know what I can do for you. All right. Share this, like it, comment, do all the great social media stuff. Let me know what I can do for you. Aaron Hendon with eXp Realty over at Christine & Company. Talk to you soon.